Oh, she said she was.
Now, we'll come on to the order. First off, Ty's gonna read something.
Tonight, with it being so close to the election, we will be limiting the residents' comments to 1 minute, and no comments will be allowed until the residents' comment part of the meeting. There will be no engagement from the board, attorney, or clerk during the comments. This evening is strictly comments. There will be no badgering allowed or debating. All speakers need to come to the podium, state name and address, then the timer will begin. Anyone unwilling to follow rules from seat or podium will be removed from the meeting.
And just to let everybody know, Tammy's not here. She's out of state doing volunteer work, and her plane got delayed, so she wasn't able to get home in time. So that's why she's not here tonight.
All right. Any questions or corrections on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve utility board meeting minutes from August 12th, 2019. Second.
Do a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
I approve, I'd like to make a motion to approve the utility board meetings for September 9th, 2019.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Could I make a motion to move the claims docket to the regular town hall meeting?
Second.
Do a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Just report.
So as you can see, there's just a couple adjustments based on meter reading error, applied deposits to final bills, and a wrongly charged penalty and a pool credit. Other than that, that is it.
Make a motion to approve the adjustment report.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Clerk treasurer report.
So the first thing that I wanted to go ahead and discuss with the board and see how you guys wanted us to move forward for the utility office. So 656 Harrison Circle, they put their house up for sale. I believe they moved out in June. Is that correct? So the house was still up for sale. They moved to Tennessee. Did they have the water turned off before they left? No. Okay, so they didn't have the water turned off because they had inspectors or realtors coming in there and showing the house. Well, I believe when Mark went to go do one of his meter readings, or maybe it was for when the new person came in, Tammy dealt with it more, they found out that there was 2 days to where somebody turned the water on, let it run. It was draining, I think, about 100 gallons per hour for like 2 days straight. And then it just stopped. So obviously somebody had turned on water or maybe flushed a toilet or something and maybe went back a couple days later, caught it and fixed it. So that was on September's bill. When Mark went to go read, I think for the new tenant, they found out that there was 2 more days where it happened yet again, the same scenario. Water, it started, was using 100 gallons per hour, and then it stopped 2 days later. So the previous owner, they called, they had sold and closed on the house on the 20th of September. Tammy had let them know. They said that there was no way, there is a problem with our equipment, it's broke or something, that there's no way. So we had Mark look at it, Tammy had talked to them. Whenever we bring up the leak report or somebody calls and says they have a high bill and they say there's no way, we have Mark go out and read it. Say he says, okay, well, between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. you use 200 gallons. And they say, there's no way, I'm asleep. How could I use? We say, okay, did you leave a toilet running? Do you have a water softener? We try and give them examples of what could possibly happen. Well, Tammy did that, as we do. They called her a liar. She asked them, you know, she goes, did the realtor, did you have an inspector in there? Then they said that she was calling her realtor or the inspector a liar. So they're refusing to pay the bill. Now they have the new bill where they have a 6,000 gallon from these 2 days of usage. She has noted the account every time that she's talked to them. They requested to speak with me. I called them. I even had Mark download everything to email them. I mean, it is a very lengthy document. They will not return my calls, so now they're gonna be getting this new bill. Obviously, they won't come to the board meeting because they live in Tennessee. I can't put a lien on the property because now it's sold into the new person, so I know that they'll be calling when they get this month's bill for 6,000 gallons, even though nobody's lived there. And this is the prorated, so this was strictly from the time that the house was still in their name until the new person took over. So I just wanted to go ahead and address it with the board and see what answer you would like me to give them, because they said our equipment's broke and there's no way that that is potentially the issue.
For years, when it happened to me, people always, someone would go in and clean or wash a wall down or something, or they had a toilet leaking, we always charged them, they always had to pay, they were responsible for that. And if you let one get away with
Right.
it, you're gonna have everybody get away with it, so there's a lot of excuses out there.
Right.
So if I'm sure we have a deposit, but it does not cover the bill, I'm assuming.
No.
Do you know the dollar amount after the deposit is applied?
Do you know what their account is looking at with this unpaid bill and what their current bill is gonna be?
Not with the new one. I know right now they are at like a $41 balance because they paid $81.08 in anticipation. That's what their bill was gonna be for September. But it was actually the $122. So right now they have a balance of like 41 something.
So a 6,000 gallon bill, I wanna say is it's 140 something.
143.
So we're looking at like maybe under 200.
Well, that's not bad, I mean, a lot of bills are
Right, but
$300.
I think that they wanted it addressed with the board, but obviously they're not gonna drive all the way from Tennessee to be here. So I just wanted to go ahead, because then I can let them know, hey, you can go back and look at the video. I've addressed it with the board, expressed your concerns, and this is,
Sounds like we gave them the documentation that they need.
well, we're waiting for them to call back so I can give them the documentation. They just aren't
But
calling
that's our
back.
policy, it
Yeah.
is now, until we change it, that's what it's been.
You know, the great thing about the radio read meters, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but, you know, we can show that abnormal usage, you know, what day it was, what time of day, you know. And
Yeah, and I think it's like
everything else.
26 pages that we have
And that's
that
why
shows.
it will download the previous 96 days,
Right.
and that's what we have available to them, if they would like to see it.
You know, maybe such a thing where they can, based off those reports, maybe figure out the corresponding time period, and if the realtor was showing the house at that time period, or
Right.
somebody was in there working on whatever.
And that's what Tammy's tried to explain to them. But, I mean, they went off on her, so I just figured I would confirm it with the board and let them know that that's just the policy. And now with this question in this incident, obviously, because I cannot put a lien on the property because it's sold, we do have an ordinance that states that we can send bills to collections. We never have. Would the board like me in these incidences or moving forward, would you like me to contact other towns to see who they use and have that open as a form to collect the water bill?
I think in the past, we've used our legal firm to collect unpaid balances.
Yeah,
So doing like a small claims
yeah.
instead of collections?
What do you think, Reed? Is it the way to go with that?
Yeah, so what sending to collections means is basically you either send out a collection letter or you file a small claims case, so.
So the total you say is around 143. The deposit's $100, right?
It should be 125 depending on when they bought the house.
So is it 143 after the 125 is deducted, or are we talking about?
No, the
$18?
full bill I think will probably be about 180 after it hits on the 15th and then subtract the 125. So I mean, they're still not looking at that big of a difference, but
With something that small though, is it worth spending all the money to go after that and read needs time and all that.
Yeah, probably not, because you're gonna have to pay a filing fee plus,
Usually a letter from the lawyer took care of it. Usually a letter from you saying what the board, that they have to pay it, took care of it.
Right.
Once in a while, Bumbleberg would send a letter, and that took care of it. I don't think we really ever had to go to small claims court to get that far.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can send letters if we need to.
Okay, well, I'll just let them know, and then if they wanna go back and they can see that, I've addressed it with you guys to let them know. So then the next thing is, so we also have an ordinance that states, that through the bank, that if a check gets returned, that there's a $27.50 return check fee, because that's what the bank charges us. Now that we have Invoice Cloud for credit card payments, they do charge us a $15 ACH rejection fee, or a chargeback fee for credit cards. We do not have anything in an ordinance or anything that states, for online payments, that if it gets rejected, that we have that fee. So I wanted to see what we needed to do to get that, because right now, we don't have it in our Keystone software to charge them that $15. I can only charge a $27.50.
That's something you could add to our ordinance?
Yeah, we just need to make that change.
Do we need a motion to do that?
I think we need to draft either an amended ordinance or a resolution that we can adopt at the next meeting.
Okay.
I think I did
I
to
think
do
we-
that. I don't think we can do it tonight.
Right.
We could go ahead and do a motion, but I don't think it's gonna take care of it.
Or you can just create it and then we'll address it next month.
Yeah.
I guess I'd like to see you create that and
Yeah.
take a look at it.
Yeah,
next
because we
month.
had $30 in fees, just for, this invoice that I just paid for 2 that were returned. But we're not collecting on those because we don't have anything, in our ordinance to say that we can collect it. So then the last thing for the utility side, so when we were doing the salary ordinance meeting, and we were talking about Tammy being full-time and all of that, I was made aware from a couple board members that previous utility clerks, I guess were considered full-time at 30 hours, and they also got the insurance stipend, or the insurance reimbursement as it was called back then. So I did some research and found out, that, Ron's utility clerk did, she worked at least 31 hours, every week, and did collect $140 every 2 weeks for that insurance stipend. So I know that it was kind of out of the question about making Tammy 40 hours a week, and then I know the previous clerk treasurer before me, she was at 30 or more hours, but I don't think she got that insurance stipend because of being on a parent's insurance. So, and then when I was hired in as utility clerk, I was only hired in at 20 hours a week. So my question is, I would like the board to consider giving, because Tammy is I have her stay under the 30 hours, so she's at like 29 hours a week. So if we give her an extra hour or 2, then that puts her at that 30, and then if we could consider giving her that insurance stipend as how a previous utility clerk did, because Tammy's not married, so therefore she can't get on a husband's insurance. With working almost 30 hours, she can't get another full-time job for her to be able to collect insurance. So I feel like if we want to keep her, but we also want to provide her preventative care in case she gets sick. I'd rather her be able to go to the doctor rather than call off and stay in bed for 5 days to sweat it out. So I figured since, yeah, that's like the people think just covering up in a blanket and sweating it out gets over a cold, or like the flu. So I figured since why not, if we're not gonna allow her to have 40 hours a week, consider her full-time at the 30 and allow her to have the insurance stipend, just like how it's been done before. The previous utility clerk got the paid holidays like how the other full-time employees did, gives her the sick days and personal days. I feel like she should be entitled to that as well as previous utility clerks. So I was just asking the
What
board.
is the rate of the stipend?
$500 a month.
So it's,
I think back then when it was done, the 140 every 2 weeks was actually calculated based on what the spouse was paying to add. I just think it's been changed over the years to where everybody was getting the flat rate.
Can we think about it a month or something?
We can't, because salary ordinances next month, so I would have to put it in. It was just brought to my attention after this, after we had our meeting, so then I looked into it, and I printed off a whole year to show that it was actually done and being paid out.
We increased my thought would be, we increased the medical from 300 to 500, right?
350 to 500.
But that's full-time people. If she's not full-time, maybe we ought to go to 300, but as a part-timer, so she gets something. And then when you go full-time one day, we do, then you increase it to 500.
So give her like the 350 that it currently is.
350, yeah.
And I would be okay with that.
What's the requirement of hours? Is it anything over 30 that is considered a full-time, or they have to be 40 hours? I don't know what the,
I think it's 32 or something.
32?
Yeah, I don't think that there's a requirement anymore to provide health insurance at 30 hours. We're not providing benefits anyways. So I think you're free to decide how you want to do it. But there's no issue allowing it at 30.
Well, we did it before, so.
And like I said, it would only be giving her like an hour and a half more in hours, but she's already working like 29.65 hours, so that she stays under that 30. So really the only change would be to
Add the insurance.
let her work an extra hour and a half and to give her that, those benefits.
So the 350 for now, and then it's, yeah, and then a full-time person later could be 500 or something.
So where do we have it that currently says, is it just in the salary ordinance that people who get 40 hours, is that what it says, 40 hours?
No,
it
Does
just
say
says that
full-time?
It says full-time, or, yeah, full-time employee for the town. And I've seen it range where there was actual numbers of hours, where somewhere where it was like 32 and above was considered full-time, and then Michelle says she's seen where it says 30, so it's, I don't think we have a set
You know what
full-time.
document we have outside of the salary ordinance?
Is there a hand?
Our handbook says that 40 hours is considered full-time, but both the previous utility clerks before me, I pulled both of theirs, and they were all under 40. They were between 30 and 35. And like I said, one of them was getting the insurance. I think the other one wasn't, because they were on a parent's insurance, so therefore they wouldn't get reimbursed for being on a parent's.
My recommendation would be, whatever you want to do is fine, but we should have that in employee manual, and our employee manual should match up with what we're doing.
Right.
One thing I do want to mention is, and we need to document this stuff in the future, but as I remember, Lena, we gave that to her in lieu of a raise. She wanted that, she asked for it specifically. And when you start doing this stuff, like people that get sick days and ask for money in lieu of something else, or, we need to document it better, because it's not just, it's for a reason a lot of times.
Well, Lena was getting, she was paid $17.50 an hour, plus getting the insurance, so she was $1.50 higher than.
No, I know that, I
Right.
agree with that, I'm just
Yeah.
saying the reason, no matter what she was making, we paid her a certain amount, whether because she was worth it, her husband was on the board, who knows, but when she asked for it, that was because of a raise. You know, she asked for that instead of a raise, and I don't know the reason for that, but, so, take a look, I'm just saying. Just giving you information.
If the board will allow, I think we'll have to have another meeting yet, in the next week or so. Should we be, right now, we've preliminarily been awarded a community crossing grant, and we'll need to authorize or vote to have a engineering service company write all those specs and they'll take board action, but right now I don't know the price of that, so I think that we will need to have another meeting here in the next week or so. When's the salary ordinance due?
Next month.
November 1st
But I
or
thought
something?
didn't Mark say that you don't do all of that until you get the official award letter? Because we've not officially been awarded.
Right, it's preliminary,
Right.
yes.
So are we
Right.
at the point where we need to do the engineering?
We may.
I don't know, I
be at
can't see
that-
Mark.
We may be at that point in pretty short order.
We'll discuss it here.
you know, so.
One of the rare times I agree with Ashton. I think we ought to maybe think about it a minute and get our heads together, and it's hard to decide some of this stuff.
I'd like to at least refresh my memory on the employee handbook and
Yeah.
a couple
Well,
of things.
if you go by the employee handbook, you guys were following the employee handbook when you gave it to Lena. I have the documentation right here to prove, and I have the employee handbook sitting on my desk. It says a full-time employee with 40 hours is considered full-time, but according to these documents, she was not working full-time hours, and she was getting full-time benefits.
I
Well, the
think you
board
can give,
can deviate from the handbook.
yeah, and you can
Right.
give
But
more
it's
than
best-
what it states.
Yeah, it's best for those to match up, but, you know, the handbook is the guide, but we, you know, I do think it's fair to have an opportunity to look at it. I mean,
I think,
I don't know.
it sounds like everybody wants more time to think about it, so we've got time to throw a meeting in before the,
Before the November meeting.
When would it start?
It would be, start January 1st, like the,
Okay,
that,
so it
the hour.
doesn't, so if it was voted tonight.
No, because
it wouldn't be
everything,
anything
yeah,
before
no,
January.
everything doesn't start until January 1st.
just hold on to that. Look at the handbook,
Okay.
see what the rules on hours gotta be, and for sure.
So we can always amend that though to the ordinance, right? If we wanted to set how it.
Well,
Or
yeah, I
not
think
ordinance,
what-
but to the handbook.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking about salary ordinance amendment. Yeah, you can amend the handbook.
Which we're gonna have to, because it's not in flow with, like, what you guys have done with holidays and all of that. The last time it was updated was 2013.
Anything else? All right. New business.
Yeah, the only thing I had on utilities was I've worked on a draft for the summer sprinkler ordinance. And so that is ready to go, but since we're amending that ordinance, just wanted to check to see if there's gonna be any need for change to the rates. And, you know, just kind of giving an update that that's where I'm at with it. I haven't sent it on to Michelle yet, but I'm gonna be ready to do that soon. And so, you know, all I have right now is making the change for the summer months so that they are billed according to the winter months instead of that summer usage. So that's what Michelle and I are working on. That's all I have for utilities.
All right. Stormwater educator, Ben.
Don't worry about that last name.
Help us out.
Ben Wegleitner, stormwater educator for the Tippecanoe County Partnership for Water Quality. I was here probably 2 months ago to introduce myself as a recently hired position. So I'm back tonight to provide a brief update and then pass on some information about some events that we have coming up. As you may have noticed, it's been relatively dry the last 2 or 3 months, so I haven't been fielding a lot of stormwater flooding calls, and certainly none in Dayton that I can recall. But just a reminder, I am available to field those calls or to provide one-on-one homeowner education, homeowner assistance, to deal with localized flooding issues. We've been doing a lot of educating of kids because it's been so dry lately. We just finished up our Wonders on the Wabash program, a rafting trip down the Wabash River where they learn water chemistry and wastewater treatment, and they learn about fisheries and biodiversity. So we probably put over 400 kids on the river in the month of September in big balloon inflatable rafts. We got a little bit of media coverage from WLFI, so that was good to get those messages out. Other than that, in the time that I last saw you, I've been doing a lot of digital educating. Our website is now up and running. There's information for homeowners, information for businesses, information on stormwater ordinances for the town of Dayton, town of Battleground, Lafayette, West Lafayette County. And then the last thing, I have some flyers here upcoming this weekend. On Saturday, we have our De-Trash the Wabash program where we're removing physical debris, litter, dishwashers, whatever else is in the Wabash River. We're meeting at Tapawingo Park in West Lafayette at 9 o'clock. It usually goes until about noon, and then from noon to 1, there's a free pizza party for any volunteers. So it's an event that gets people along the water. I think there are some opportunities to take trash out of the water, but for most people's safety, it's better to be removing trash from the banks, and there's plenty of it. So we'll have our hands full. But it'll be the Wabash River. I believe there's a few sites along the Wildcat Creek, on the Heritage Corridor Trail that runs along the river. And then if any local Dayton residents are interested in doing some cleanups right around here along the South Fork of the Wildcat, I'd be happy to talk to you about how do we dispose of that litter and how we can kind of join forces with this De-Trash the Wabash. But I printed out about 10 flyers. If we run out, there's more information on the tcpwq.org. It's a mouthful, but I'd be happy to give you my card. I won't be able to stick around for the full town board meeting, but I will leave a stack of my cards again if anyone has any questions or wants to join that event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Utility report.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, since we last met, it's been a busy month. The first item that you see on there is the IDM inspection of our water system. Every 3 years, they do what's called a sanitary survey, so it's just a more thorough inspection, I guess you would call it. They came up with what they describe as 2 minor deficiencies. One is they were looking for the town's emergency response plan for if we ran out of water service, whether it's for a natural disaster or whatever it may be. So they'd like to see that you've got a plan in place to, it's more of a contact list of anything else, but also it goes through what the protocol is in that scenario. So I've put that together here. A copy of this will be in the clerk's office, so if any time now or in the future that would happen, whether, like I said, it's a natural disaster or there was just wells went bad or something, that we have a plan in place. So I've got that put together. I'll be sending that to them. The second thing is a recurring deficiency that we've had for quite some time, is that they would like to see higher chlorine levels in our water. We get our water from Lafayette. Up until July of 2017, we had high chlorine levels here in Dayton. In speaking to Lafayette Water about turning up the chlorine feed in our water, they said, well, the problem they were having is that by the time, the water got here, if they turned it up that much, then they had all these complaints from people in Lafayette that they had too much chlorine in their water. So they tried to find a balance in between that. What they did do is, and I guess just so you have the right picture in your mind, so we get our water from the water tower out there on Veterans. It travels in a 24-inch water main down along Haggerty before it crosses over to our meter house. Well, just the pipe, the 24-inch pipe from our meter house to that water tower holds over 150,000 gallons. Well, we only use 70,000 gallons a day. So we have water in the tower, but it takes a long time for that water to actually get here. And then by the time it comes down Yost Drive in a 12-inch main, so the water's out there at the meter house, might have adequate chlorine in it. By the time it gets down through all of our piping, because we don't use that much water, it's not meeting their requirement. So these are the different scenarios that we could be facing. One is we could add more chlorine to the water ourselves at the meter house. I'm not a fan of that. I think that that's added cost, that's added regulation. There's a lot of negatives to that. The town was very wise when they put this water system in, and that they put in large water mains so that it was designed for future growth. Because it's very difficult to go back and do something over, it's very costly. So you had the right idea when this water system was put in, but we just haven't had the usage yet to keep that water moving like it should be, to keep those chlorine levels where the state would like it. So the one option is we add the chlorinator out at the meter house. The other one is that occasionally I just open up the hydrant on the far end of town to bring new fresh water in, so it brings those chlorine levels up. Well, the problem with that is that we're paying for that water that's going off and soaking into the ground. So Lafayette, there's a fire hydrant across from the meter house. They went out there a day after I talked to them, and they opened up that hydrant, and our chlorine levels went right up. So it proves my reasoning and my theory on it anyway. I guess we have to make a decision. It doesn't have to be made tonight, but I think that we're going to have to do something, whether it's automatic flushers or manually opening up some hydrants occasionally, or asking Lafayette Water to do the same in order to keep that water chlorine level where the state wants to see it. That chlorine level is determined by the federal EPA, so it's not really even a state number that they've manufactured. It's just what it is. What I've explained to you is going to be my response to them, and then we'll see how it unfolds from there. I don't think we want to pull the trigger on any of those possible answers right there yet. We just want to see how Lafayette Water works with us, what we can work out with them as far as flushing that hydrant that's on their main. Maybe if not, then we start flushing water on our mains to try to get those levels back up. My argument with the state was that in the 15 months I've been here, twice a month we're required to submit water samples to an independent lab that tests the water for several things, bacteria and other things, and it always comes back good. So in my mind, of course, I say, well, we have adequate levels of chlorine. The water's clean, it's safe, it tastes good, you know. But that's a bit different than what the EPA guidelines are. They like to see a certain level of chlorine in there. Now, whenever this issue was brought up in the past, what was the discussion then? That's my question to you, because I know this has been brought up before. Did you discuss auto flushers, or did you talk about
Talk about a booster station.
a booster station? So a chlorine booster station, so adding a chlorine feed to it, and you just didn't?
That or looping the system to get the more water flow being pulled.
Yeah, I don't know if the looping would pay for itself, because it's so costly to do that it, so you have discussed in the past, though, about adding some chlorine to the water?
We talked about it a few years ago,
We also
probably 3 years ago, whenever the last.
Well, probably wouldn't make much of a difference. I don't know how big the fire department's tankers are, but every time they filled up, if they filled up south of town,
It would help.
3,000, I only got 3,000 gallons, so, I mean,
It would
they
help.
did that 2 or 3 times a week if they needed to.
That would help.
Taking the hydrant clear out here, we'll suck more of that into the town.
Yes.
If we allow them to fill up, because I think they've been filling up at the one on the other side of Hackett, and it's not even getting.
Is that right?
So
Yeah.
if we allow them to fill their tankers here in town on the south side of Pine Street.
You know, I'll speak to Sean
Yeah.
Alcar about that and see if he could help us out in that.
Mark, we also looked at doing a little bit more vigorous hydrant flushing, or opening up some hydrants.
Yeah.
And you probably know more about that than I do, but I thought that we can get some credit for that usage from Lafayette.
Because we're, for the purpose that we're doing.
Yeah, more flushing hydrants, so.
Okay.
but
You know,
needs
and
to
I
be
think
verified.
that's, I'm glad you said that, because that, you know, I need them to work with us, whether it's their hydrant, our hydrants, or whatever. We need to work out a scenario where the state's satisfied and that it's not costing us an arm and a leg.
Right.
You know. I guess, you know, until we get increased usage for business or whatever it may be, that's just something we're gonna have to address as time goes along.
Right.
I thought somebody said at one time too, if you crack a hydrant, it shuts the meter off out there.
It does,
It shuts the meter down, so it's not metering anything if you crack a hydrant.
It does have a bypass on it. Normally, it runs through a 6-inch pipe and a 6-inch water meter, and that's what we pay on. Whenever, if we had a fire and one or more hydrants were opened up, there is a bypass on it that will open up another valve, a solenoid will open up a valve, and it's not to say that the other water isn't measured at the same time. It's not like it diverts the flow, it just adds to the flow. So then the water's going to the 6-inch and the 8-inch on that. That's a good point. I never thought about that.
I think that's what I'm thinking of as far as getting a credit or not being charged.
Is that diversion?
The bypass.
Okay.
Yeah, we always had that bypass, they said.
Yeah.
We didn't get charged for it.
Okay. Yeah, if it's not metered. Yeah. One other thing that was part of this sanitary survey, they wanted to do a water audit. They said, okay, so, and I do a simple water audit. How much water do we buy versus how much is billed out of the office, okay? And the reason they do that is because they want to see what the infrastructure looks like. They want to know if you're wasting water, because a lot of towns, they might lose as much as 40–50% of the water that they pump out of a well because they have leaks in the water mains, you know, and they just don't have the money to upkeep them. So the basic arithmetic on Dayton was that we lose, or we have unaccounted for, 11.6% of our water. The state benchmark is they want to see it underneath 25%. So what is the unaccounted water? Well, it's things just as the fire department, or any leaks you may have, or a malfunctioning meter. Well, we've got relatively all brand new meters. I mean, what are they? A year old. So 11.6% is very good. I know when you hear that, you say, boy, 11%. 1 out of every 10 gallons, but that's very good when you think about how many miles of pipe there is in town.
And that could be, people washing cars, watering lawns, and,
Well, that water would be metered though.
okay.
You see what I'm saying? So this is unaccounted for, not billed for water. And this leads us to the second item, is that starting in 2020, the Indiana Finance Authority is going to require every community water system to do an annual water audit. So every town, starting in 2020, has to do an audit every year. The reason the Indiana Finance Authority is doing this is that they're trying to get funds earmarked for municipalities so that the state will start helping to fund these town water projects. So they're trying to collect the data for it. Now, the water audit that they're requiring is a bit more involved than what I did. And they'll provide the softwares, computer software. You have to go to training to make sure you're doing it just right. So, seeing how I'm the guy here, I'd go to this training in Indianapolis whenever they have it this winter, I'm assuming. Just to let you, and I think it's a good thing to track, because if we see that jump up to 15%, and I talked to the fire department and there's not been a big increase on their part, that means we need to start looking around somewhere to find out where that water's going to. But at that 11.6%, I think that's a pretty good number, and that's a good baseline for us to start referencing future numbers off of. Okay. Wastewater, so the Deerfield letters that we spoke about last time, I sent 12 of them out. I've had 9 responses. Out of those 9, I have confirmed 7 of them, so I still have 2. Because when a homeowner gets a hold of me, I go out there to make sure exactly what's going on. So 2 of those 9 I need to confirm yet. So that means that we have 3 that we haven't heard back from. Okay? I sent out the letter on September 25th. I was going to give everybody 30 days. So October 25th, those remaining 3 I'll recontact personally, whether it's a phone call or a note on the door, whatever it will be. And we'll just walk this thing out until we're confident that we don't have any of the stormwater going into our sanitary sewer. Okay. Lafayette renewed billing adjustment. If you remember at the last meeting, we had in the flume that measures the flow for the wastewater going to Lafayette, we had a malfunction. It was cleaned out. I got a hold of Lafayette Renew and said, hey, can you adjust this bill? The original bill was going to be approximately $17,000. They did make the adjustment, and I don't know if you have the details of it tonight, but it was around $13,000. So we saved about $4,000 by reaching out to them, and they were gracious enough to work with us. So we saved $4,000, but it cost us about $1,000 to get Bill Anderson to go out there and make sure everything was right on it. But we're still $3,000 to the good side on it. I've been tracking it frequently, and of course it's so dry now. The readings are very good, but I'll keep a better eye on that.
We have to pay B.L. Anderson every so often to go out there and...
Once a year, once a year we're required to have them go out and calibrate the flow meter, and we're required to do that by Lafayette Renew. So, number 3 item, in the spring and fall I go out and inspect all the grease and grit chambers, so I'll be doing that for the fall inspection here in October. Streets, Yost Drive, submitted the required state quarterly report this month. Received contract approval from the state. What that contract was a contract in between the state of Indiana and the town of Dayton for us to oversee and be responsible for this Yost Drive project. Following that, we then have to submit for release of federal funds. That was done last Thursday. They said that it's just part of the protocol that you go through, step by step. So now we've requested, along with the MPO, which is Tippecanoe County, for the release of federal funds. And once we get that done, they said that'll take about 2 weeks, then we should be able to move forward. Hopefully the crops will be harvested and away we'll go. The no parking signs that we discussed at the last meeting, those have been installed.
Mark, I had a question on Yost Drive.
Yes,
Is that located inside the proposed TIF area?
yes. It
And
is.
do you know what we're planning to do other than just build the road as far as?
Well, there'll be different proposals presented to the board, and it will be where there will be access points to it off of that. There will be discussion about a town park out there. There will be discussion about extension of any utilities if needed, whether it's electrical or the sanitary sewer going farther to the north. So the consulting firm, BF&S, will bring proposals to the town council, and you'll decide what you want that to look like. I know right now we hear conversations about it, but it really won't be determined until those options are looked at. The only thing we know for sure now is that it's going from point A to point B. On one side of the road, it's going to have a pedestrian bicycle trail. And on one side, it's going to have a sidewalk. It's connecting Haggerty Lane to State Road, or to Pine Drive, I guess. But we just haven't got in, other than discussions, haven't gotten into the specifics of it exactly. Okay. Anything else about it? So here's a big item, the community crossing grant. Okay. So we received a letter and email giving preliminary approval. And that letter stated that the town would receive $169,199.58. That's 75% of our cost estimate to do the projects, which was $225,600. So out of all our coffers would come $56,400. So it was a preliminary notification. I said that an official award letter will follow. So with the assumption that the award letter is going to follow, we have no reason not to think so. Although we don't, and it says do not award any bids until you have the award letter from the state in hand. The question that we have is, are we going to try to get some of this work done yet in 2019, or are we going to wait until the spring of 2020? Because that will be our next step. If we want to go for 2019, of course it's weather dependent, but if we want to do that, we need to move the ball ahead quickly now. What that involves would be getting all the specifications written up for these projects, and they're a little bit more detailed than we have in the past. In the past, it's primarily milling and paving. This one has some road widening, has some sidewalks, has some things that require more detailed specifications than previous projects did. So if we want to do that, we need to move forward on that so that we have it in hand and ready, so when we get to the award letter from the state, that we can then advertise. For a project of this size, anything over $150,000, you have to advertise for bids twice. The advertisements have to be at least 7 days apart. So there's certain criteria, and it has to be so many days before it's awarded. So there are sealed bids. You have to do this in a certain way once we hit that
Does the
threshold.
jobs have to be done before we go after more monies next
Yes.
year?
Yes.
So it'd be
You have to close out all of these projects, not just one, but all of the projects before you are eligible to apply for future money. So that's the question. Do we want to hope for the best and move along quickly and try to get these done this fall? It's some, if not all, or do we want to
Well,
wait till
you
spring?
have to do the bidding anyway. You might as well get that done, and then if the weather holds, you can go ahead and
Right.
you'll have that all done and out of the way and know who you're working with for first thing in the spring also.
Well, the only thing that you get into there, so let's say that we did it, we got the bid, and the bid was a good bid, and we awarded it, and the state approved of it, and it was to milestone. And then they said, oh, we ran out of weather, and springtime comes, and they would have the right to say, hey, we didn't see it coming, the price of oil went up, and now our asphalt's costing about 50% more, so those numbers aren't good anymore.
But then you just get another bid.
Then you would rebid it, yes. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to lay out a scenario where it could possibly not fold over so easily in the spring. There might be a hiccup in it because
I
of
mean,
price
everything we
increase.
can get out of the way now.
You know, and it's weather dependent, you know, I think it is.
Because a couple of these streets were so critical, and, you know, we talked about them before, like Shady Lane, it seems to me like it's such a critical area and dangerous, so we need to go ahead and get it done.
Well, we would, I'd like to get them all done, because the reason I want to get them all done is because by springtime, this winter beats up your roads, I'll have a whole new list in the spring. And then we'll be out here working on Street A, and people will be saying, have you not seen all the potholes over on Street B? Why aren't you working on that one? That one's not there, you know. So it's just a thing that's just going to keep going. And once we get behind, it's hard to catch up.
Don't
It
they
is.
close the asphalt plants down at a certain time, so you're,
That-
by the
and
time
that's-
we get all that done, they'll probably be closed down.
And that's another thing. They could be, you know, and that's where it's weather dependent. Now, they'll run as long as they can, but as soon as they see a cold snap and it's not going to warm back up, they don't care. They say, we're done. So there's some risk to it.
So you need an answer tonight to go ahead and
Well-
press forward?
Well, I guess I'm just providing information and want to see what you think, and I think that we would receive the award letter from the state probably within 2 weeks. So I guess I
Seems to
don't
me
know.
like we ought to start getting the bids and putting them out, anticipate those awards coming. I mean, it sounds like it's a given.
Well, I guess here's a scenario. So we get the specifications for the bids put together. We solicit for bids. Now we're probably looking at early November at this point, and we get the bids. We got to send the bids to NDOT to have them approve it, make sure it looks right. So now we're another week or two into it. So it might be that we've got all of our stuff prepared, whether it's for spring or fall or spring, but it might not happen, even though we've done everything we can to make it happen.
Yeah, that's true, but at least we started on it.
Yes,
So
yeah.
You gotta do it now, you gotta do it later
Yeah.
anyway. We must shoot, try to get something done, so everything's not jammed up in the spring.
Yeah, and there's a couple different ways to look at it, and I'm good with either way.
I mean, otherwise, it's October, you wait till another meeting, that's a month away, it's all too late.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it seems like we've got the money in hand, and we ought to.
I don't have the cost from the folks to write specifications and such, but, you know, yes, I agree with you, and, you know, sooner or later, we need to, keep moving here and improve it, but
When is spring application?
January,
So how?
that's early spring.
So
That's
how are
all
you
good.
supposed to get projects done and do them in the spring, but then be qualified?
They now do them in January and July, so we would want to make sure our project was completed before July, if we want to go over another round. I mean, I guess the miraculous thing would be if we got it done
Next 2 months.
in the next 2 months and had it all closed out, and we were ready January 1st, but that's, stranger things have happened, but that's asking for a lot. Everything has to fall into place perfectly on that one. But yeah, they changed it in 2019, and it's going to be this way from now on. They have a call for projects in January and July of every year. So, what do you think? You want to move forward with having them put together specifications for the project? I mean, that's the first step. It's got to be done now, or it has to be done whether it's for now or in the spring. At least we'll have that done, whether it goes to bid or not.
Yeah, I'd say put this back together and get started.
And move forward as we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
you need a
Next.
motion?
Oh,
Second.
A motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
The next item is leaf pickup dates, and the following dates have been set. And Michelle, you'll have to put this on there. So, October 28th, November 11th, November 25th, and December 9th. And there's and she'll have it on the town website. It has a couple small changes on it, but nothing significant. It's just about the piling of leaves and that kind of thing. Under other, dump trucks, so I took the dump truck to We Engineering, and they got the tailgate and latch and all that welded up, and it's good to go now, so it works now. A second thing that I want to do with it, talk to Troy over here at Anderson Restoration. There's a lot of surface, I don't even know what to call it, there's rust specks all over the cab, and it's from plowing snow and all the salt. But I asked him if I could bring it over there and see if he could buff that out. I mean, that's a very nice truck. It's only got 8,000 miles on it. He said, I'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I'd like to drop it off over there. He's just going to, when he gets time, take a look at it. The last item is TDS Automation. So just to refresh your memories, that's the business that's going to be out here at the end of Hind Drive. They are putting up an FBI steel building, and right where they want, that's 2 parcels out there, and right where they're setting the building is splitting the 2 parcels. So they had to go to the county and request that be one large parcel. So we just received notification on something like that. I'm letting you know, just so, because you may know of some concern that I'm not aware of, that we don't want it joined to be one parcel. Do we have a reasoning to be for or against that request?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, all right. There's a meeting on October 24th down there at Area Plan, and they said anybody that has an interest in this can attend it.
They'll be located in our TIF area. Do we know
Yes.
when they'll be breaking ground?
Very soon. They had it. They applied for the building permit, and they said, "No, you can't do it because you're splitting 2 parcels. You got to take care of this first." So I suspect, and I've spoke to a contractor on more than one occasion about the water and sewer hookups. I believe they want to get this building up and running before winter. But it does with most things. It's there's always something else you got to do. Someone needs paperwork, someone needs a permit.
Mark, all that stuff that you have on that,
Yeah.
can you give copies to Reed, because he needs it for the TIF?
Well, this is what they sent me.
And they plan on building that before the end of the year, you're saying?
I believe so. The only thing holding them up is a building permit, like I said. So I have this, which is a sketch plan from their engineering firm. But I also have that, I can't make a copy of that, but I can forward you the information that I got from the area plan. Would you like that? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, what are they building?
It's considered commercial, so it'll be a small, I don't know if it'll be a manufacturing or it will be a maintenance shop. They're involved with the automation out at Subaru.
I believe they said it was
Assembly.
repairing control panels.
Okay.
Unless you go in.
Yeah, I guess you know that.
Mark, if you want to give him that map, you can have mine. 'Cause I-
Oh, you got one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm one of the agencies listed on that area plan disbursement.
Thank you. Mark, have you heard anything about the next to it, the big truck
No.
place when they're on the starter?
And you know, that's a good question. they purchased, if you go to Beacon, you know, it's on there, it's listed as owner as Wausau Group, W-A-U-S-A-U. Whenever they were here with Dan Teeter as their representative, it was McCoy. So I'm guessing that McCoy is a subsidiary of this Wausau Group. But the interesting thing about it is that they purchased a large piece of ground out there off of the Carr family. Much more than you would need for the truck dealership. So I see it as probably a bit of an investment, you know. They probably had heard and was hoping for this Yost Drive to go in there themselves. So I think that as Yost Drive progresses and other things unfold out there, that we'll see some movement on that, but I don't.
Do they get 40 acres? Is that
28.
20 acres.
Yeah.
My only thinking is usually in the fall when all the crops come down, weed mowed our area, the crops, everything's level and nice and clean, that 20 acres ought to at least be mowed once.
And that's how I came across this information. I was like, well, who do I need to get a hold of to get them to go out there and mow this?
Yeah.
You know?
Because they've gotten by without
I
mowing.
know. And now it's this tall.
Yes, 6 foot tall, and when all those crops are gone, you're really going to notice it.
It'll show up. So you have any questions about anything? So I guess in a nutshell, I'm going to be working with Lafayette Water on this chlorine issue. We're going to move forward with getting the specifications drawn up for community crossing. And those are really the two pressing issues that I can think of off of that list right there. Of course, we've got the leaf pickup, but that's just part of normal flow of operations, you know.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Comments from the residents? Anything regarding utilities? No? Ty, you have anything? Jason? Will?
Utilities.
No.
Make a motion, we adjourn the Service Utility Board meeting.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You speak? We're starting a new meeting. This is second for reading of the
Wait,
rest.
we gotta wait for readings. Well, this one will look at you sleep, so.
I'm gonna get a digital one.
Because you can't see it when you're.
I was just gonna get a digital one that has like song and date and time.
We still got 4 more hours left, Jim. I'm not gonna.
Ty,
I'll get Steve on
on this vacate alley,
Yeah, he's not the judge.
you'll probably not.
Erica just messaged me, she said that talked her out of coming until they figured it out. So she
I pointed out to him, I think he has more questions that needs to be answered.
she said that they're not gonna come until they figure everything out. So I don't know if you just wanna move along or,
Yeah, I'll stop.
or, yeah, tell me about it.
We need to talk to APC and the building people a little bit more before, they need to get a better handle on it. Exactly.
It looks to me like they need to vacate the alley, but then the street part, I don't know why they really.
Big lot, I don't know why you need to do that.
That's right, and that street is
We
already
never
for
given
John.
that out to them. The access to that ditch,
I wanted to vacate that before, and then
Yeah, and John always said, because that street comes through and comes over to Dayton Road here, and you might need to have the utilities to get over there. They got a big lot there. They can still use the picnic tables and all that, they just,
Dayton Town Council is now in session. Start with roll call, except for Tim. I'd like to ask for approval for the town board minutes of August 12th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve the town board minutes from August 12th, 2019.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to approve the minutes for the special meeting August 15th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve special meeting minutes August 15th, 2019.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes for the work sessions minutes September 9th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve the work session minutes from September 9th, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I would like to ask for approval of the minutes of the town board minutes for September 9th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve town board minutes from September 9th, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to ask for approval of minutes for a special meeting minutes September 26th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve special meeting minutes from September 26th, 2019.
Second.
It's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to ask for approval of the budget hearing minutes October 1st, 2019.
Make a motion we approve budget hearing minutes from October 1st, 2019.
Second.
It's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to ask for approval minutes for executive meeting minutes October 1st, 2019.
Make a motion we approve executive meeting minutes October 1st, 2019.
Second.
It's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Last one, I'd like to have approval of the minutes for special meeting minutes October 3rd, 2019.
Make a motion we approve special meeting minutes October 3rd, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to ask for approval of the claims docket October 14th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve the claims docket for October 14th, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to ask for approval of the fund report. September 30th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve the fund report for September 30th, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like approval of the allowance docket for September 1st to September 30th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve the allowance docket from September 1st through September 30th, 2019.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to ask for approval of the revenue report from September 30th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve the revenue report September 30th, 2019.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Last one, I'd like approval of appropriations report for September 30th, 2019.
Make a motion we approve the the appropriations report September 30th, 2019.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Clerk treasurer report.
Okay, I got a list. First thing, I just got an invoice in the mail from Astra Insurance, so that's why it's not in your packet. So when we had the Kiger versus Town of Dayton lawsuit, we filed an insurance claim, to have them, hire Libby Roberts to defend it. So we got an invoice that said that they spent a total of $5,762, to defend the suit. And they are just asking for our $2,500 deductible check, to be paid to them for that insurance claim. So I just asked the board's approval to go ahead and pay, it's, made out to Great American Insurance in the amount of $2,500.
Any questions? Anybody want a motion?
Make a motion, we pay the claim to
The $2,500 deductible to Great American Insurance.
$2,500 deductible to Great American Insurance.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then I am going to pass down, I'm gonna just read it for you too. So we talked about at, I think it was the church meeting the other night, about how, we didn't talk about the attorney for the salary ordinance. So what I just did is I kind of broke down our current agreement. So currently with Reed right now, for his law firm, we get 50 attorney hours and 30 paralegal hours for the base rate of $12,500 for the whole year. As of our February invoice, we only had 1.7 attorney hours remaining. So from March 2019 to current, we've been paying the attorney hours at $200 per hour for all of the attorney work. As of September 30th, that invoice, we had 10.85 hours left of paralegal work. Year to date, and this was before the invoice that I just paid, we had paid $13,950 in attorney invoices. So we still have October, November, and December work. So Reed had contacted me to kind of ask if there was another approach we wanted to do next year, where if on the back you'll see the proposed agreement from Reed for 2020 is like no flat rate fee and only to pay the hourly rate, so $200 per hour for attorney, and then $115 an hour for paralegal, at no cap, and then if it goes over the 25,000 remaining invoices for the year will be discounted at 10%. So on the front, I kind of broke down, I went through all of the invoices for the whole year. I did not break down every single thing. So the most common things that we were being charged for, so this kind of gives you an outlook if we were to pay hourly. So we've paid for attending meetings 55.75 hours, so that's 11,150. Research hours, there was 12.52 hours, which is 2,500. Answering emails, there was 19.35 hours, that's 3,870. Phone calls with board members, that was 9.6 hours, so that would be 1,900. Phone calls with me was about 2.3 hours. So just in those, it's $19,904. With the two invoices that I just paid for the monthly and then the final quarter, we are sitting at right now $26,450 still with 3 remaining months left. So I know I've talked to Tyrone about this, that's why I kind of wanted you guys to see if we were, so if you also flip back over to the side, so if we were to do this scenario, year to date, attorney hours worked is 119 hours, 119.75, so that would be 23,950. The paralegal hours is 19.15, so that's 2002, so we would be at the 26,152, which is kind of what we, is a little bit less than what we are now, but again, with still 3 months remaining. So that was Reed's proposal. I just wanted to break it down so you guys seen that, and let you guys decide. I know, like, one of the things that Tyrone and I talked about with Bumbleberg, for all of the years that he was here, he just had the flat rate of 12,000. or 12,500. And then he wasn't paid any extra. So I didn't know if you guys wanted to talk to Reed about considering offering a flat rate like how Bumbleberg had all of the years that he was here. But I would just, like I said, I just wanted to put it in black and white of what we've paid so far, and our meetings are kind of using all of our 50 hours. So, I mean, that would wipe that out there. So, this is just for you guys, and you guys can discuss how you wanna, and with Reed, how you guys wanna put it in for the ordinance for 2020.
Yeah, so last year, you guys asked me to give proposals, and I was completely new to this. So we had 3 proposals. One was hourly, one was what we did, which is described, and then one was $25,000 flat. And remember, that was based on the number that Jason had proposed for Ball Eggleston, based on what they would need to charge for this year. So $12,500 for everything is just not on the table, and it was very gracious of them to do that for a long time, but it was way below market rate. The other thing
We
is,
could probably give you a 30-year contract if you would do that.
1 year's good.
Okay. Thanks, but no thanks.
So I guessed on, I didn't know how many paralegal hours would be needed. There have not been very few actual paralegal hours. Mostly I've just been giving you guys that, and that's not going to be something I'm going to give you if we go into this next year. So if you don't use your 30 paralegal hours, you're going to lose them. And so that's why I don't think it makes sense to try to continue with this plan, because there's guesswork, and the way that everyone else does attorney time is just hourly. So what I have is just trying to keep it simple. If you guys do get to the point where you need less attorney work, you could spend less. It could be less than 25,000. It would just have to be that you use me less than that amount. So it's just a straight hourly fee, $200 an hour for my time, $115 paralegal time, and then if it goes over $25,000 for the year, then I just discount everything at 10%. Reminder: my hourly rate is $250 an hour. Doing this for $200, I don't charge for mileage when I come out here, and we've engaged 2 law firms at their full rate. And I understand that this is what it is, but I just wanted to keep that all in mind. That's why I think that it makes sense to go hourly. But really, you're looking at 2 options now: one at hourly, and then 2 would just be continuing on with what we have and doing another $12,500 for excluded hours. I do have a paralegal, and can use Gabby more, but the reality is there's just when you look at it, there's not a lot that's been needed. That's been things that I could delegate to a paralegal.
Next year, we shouldn't have quite with the housing thing being mostly done, we shouldn't quite have as much discussion.
Yeah, and with
we'll
either
cut it
of them,
down dramatically.
with either of them, the fees could be less than 25,000, certainly, if you have less needs. But that's what I was told last year. So it is what it is. It's hard to predict. I really appreciate the work. I'm grateful. I enjoyed being out here, and I definitely want to continue on for next year. I learned a lot, and it will help. Being in year 2, a lot of it was completely new, or just what we had going on with the change of clerk, and working with Michelle. That will help as well to build efficiencies. And so the goal is to provide the service in the least amount of hours to reduce rates for me anyways.
So we can think about this.
So I think she also
I need it
says-
for the salary ordinance, or.
So if you have another meeting, you can do it then.
So Reed, last year, you were charged us $250, and it becomes $250 now, and this next year you're going to do $200.
It's currently 200 an hour. He's just saying his normal
No,
rate is
I'm
200
saying
an hour.
my normal.
Well, I mean, but with the town, because, maybe I'm saying this wrong, but the Oaks of the 30 parallel hours in a
Right, so,
Okay.
and remember, that 12,500, I think was like about $1,250 savings, you know, so I put more in there. So if you add up, yeah, I mean, if you just calculate the turning hours based on that, that'd be $250 an hour. But you're getting 30 paralegal hours up to 115. And so those two numbers added up to like 13,000 something. So you're like getting that.
1395.
That benefit, so, you know, that's why I did it. And it would be a good thing to go forward, but I don't want you guys to have to pay that and then not use all your paralegal hours, because then it's a higher rate. And I just don't know how much difference, but I mean,
So
there's been a good amount of me doing work and just billing it at paralegal rate.
what's his hours this year total so far?
Total hours worked is 119.75, but we've been billed, I would have to look, but we've been billed 13,950. That was separate from the 12,500, and then we still have October, November, and December. So would you consider a flat rate if it was higher, or is a flat rate completely off the table for you?
Completely off the table. I mean, I don't want to take a pay cut.
So,
You know, I mean, you guys, unless you're gonna, you know, go to like 30 or something like that, but I'm not gonna do 25, and why would I?
so have you considered, like, when I have attorneys, they don't bill me every single time they leave a voicemail or call me or email me. So is there something that you can work, like the one time you came in and met with me in the office and we discussed water, because we want to change water rates and lower them. That meeting alone was $600. So like, is there any way to not charge for every single time? Like, we got charged $20 for leaving a voicemail. So like, is there any way to?
You've never been charged $20 just for leaving a voicemail, and
Well, that's what the invoice said. I'm just going off of I have them all in there marked, so that's how I was documenting everything.
But I know that there are times when I don't bill you, you just don't see it. So it's not like that's 100% of my time. So the answer is no. Like I bill all of my clients based on, you know, how much value, and I mean, I've gotten a lot of scrutiny, I mean, from you guys. I mean, you've been complaining about my fees and, hey, why did you do this, Reed, you know, so when you know, I have had to not bill for things. There are times when, yeah, I bill for everything, but,
You had
you
a
know,
lot of times where you didn't bill though, right?
Right.
That I saw.
right. Yeah, and it's the only inventory I have, so if what you're asking me to do is like to give away my services, and I'm already, you know, coming out here, I'm not charging mileage, I'm, you know, not charging my full rate, so I just can't. The way that I build it this year is the way that, you know, I wanted to set an expectation so you know like what it is, and that's what it is, that's what I need to do.
Well, one thing, when you have a new year and you're doing a TIF district, a Yost Drive, and a housing addition, nothing negative, but it's gonna take more time arguing, talking, whatever, especially when it's a controversial thing. So we shouldn't have quite as much of that in the future.
Yeah, and a new clerk.
And a new clerk, and you're learning stuff, and
Lawsuits, saves the town.
I guess also, since he's not an elected official, you know, we can leave it as it is now, and you guys can take November to discuss it and then amend.
Aren't we gonna be doing a thing for Tammy that we were talking about anyway? So we could just mix them together?
do it together.
Because the 200, I mean, it could be better for, it's a gamble, because I mean, we don't have as many hours next year, like Ron's saying. It's cheaper for the town. If, the other way, if it's crazy again next year, then it's a gamble, but at least we're not paying for, you know, a bunch of paralegal hours if we don't have to use them.
Do you guys
So
want?
can we talk about it for, like with Tammy's thing?
I was about to say, do you guys want to set a meeting, like, 2 weeks maybe before the November monthly meeting, so that you guys can make your decision, and then, so that I have the salary ordinance ready for the November meeting? And just set like a short meeting to discuss those two topics?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So,
Election day?
Yeah.
how about Tuesday, October 29th at 6?
I'm good.
Tuesday, October 29th?
You guys need me for that one?
Well, unless he has to agree.
No, I mean, just for the meeting in general, you don't.
No, is this, when you're talking salaries, is this open door, closed door?
It'll be open.
door?
Mhm.
Yeah.
6 o'clock?
29, 26, mhm.
It would really just be about Tammy's insurance and then just
Yep,
approving
no,
which way
literally,
to
just
pay
be,
Reed.
yep. So just those two things.
I can do here, but it's not.
Oh, yeah.
Click off.
Please email Tammy Nice.
Yep,
Yeah, what about that Monday then, is that, you could do it Monday instead?
or you can do Monday too, whichever,
I mean, that would be the 28th.
you wanna do the Monday the 28th instead at 6?
I'm fine with that. Better. You got Tuesday.
I got Tuesday, 29th.
I don't think it has to be here.
Yep.
Just gonna stick to 29th then, 6?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you just send over, kind of like you did last year, your proposals, and we can just look at it then? Good.
Okay, so we're good on that subject? Okay, so then the next thing, just need to correct for the record, at our salary ordinance meeting, when we added the IDAX coordinator position, I had stated that I was thinking her hours was around $20 an hour, and when I looked it up to work on it, it's actually $12.50 an hour, so I just want to put that on the record and correct it. So then the next thing I have, there's one for you, and then you pass it down. So I have been working with our bank and my financial advisors, looking into doing CDs, other ways of investing to help us gain more money on the money that we just have sitting in the bank. So on the front, you'll see that our current relationship, so the account that's highlighted in the yellow, oh, sorry. So the account that's highlighted in the yellow is our account where all of our checks come in and out, payroll, our deposits, everything goes in. So currently, right now, we have that account pegged at $55,000, meaning that account will not go over that amount and will not go under that amount. So anything that is over that amount automatically sweeps to our $1 million account, so the one that's not in the white. So on that $1 million account that we have, we are only earning 0.25 interest or percent in interest on that account. So we're gaining $357.86 a month off of that $1.7 million account. So we were looking at ways to earn extra money. In the past 12 months, that account has not fallen under, I think it was like 1.6 million. So it's obviously, there's room to do something with that. The reason why we have such a low interest rate on that account is because if you see on our yellow account, where it says service charge 0. The reason why we get the low percentage on that big account is because they hide our fees on that business account by giving us a lower interest rate. So it kind of, the ECR offset, that's where they don't give us a lot of money for having the 1.7 by not charging us for that money. So they get charged to send to the Federal Reserve every single check that comes to that account. They get a fee for that. So we're technically supposed to get that fee, but by giving us a low interest rate, therefore, we don't see those fees, but then we get a lower interest rate. So if you flip over, first I met with Zach at the bank. He had told me that CD rates were lower than what our current 0.25% was. So if we did $1 million CD for a year, we would gain, I think, maybe like $2,000. It wasn't worth my time. It's not worth tying up our money, and then if we would have tied up that CD and had to withdraw it because of an emergency, we would have had to pay 90 days of interest and penalties. So definitely wasn't worth our time. So I went and talked to Financial Solutions. They said, well, let me look into other scenarios because we were gaining a better interest rate in our checking account as it was now. So they looked into Trust Indiana, I believe it's called, and they were at 2% interest rates. So that was possibly an option, but therefore we're taking the money out. It's not in our account. If we needed an emergency, I'd have to go after it. So I had let the bank know that my financial advisors were looking into other options. So then they came back and told me that they had more options. They came to town hall to meet. So the proposed relationship, which we are in now, so in the yellow again is our account at the pegged at $55,000. So you'll see in red the $290.42. That would be what our fees are that we would be getting charged for all of the checks that are coming in and out of that account. So most all business accounts get charged fees. So by us seeing that fee and getting that fee now, they are now going to offer us, which is the federal fund rate, which is 1.5% on that $1.7 million account. So they took our numbers from the September, so our $1.7 million account with that 1.5% interest will earn $2,183.53 on that account if that's how it was in September. So if you take away the $290 in fees that we're seeing now, that we would be seeing, we would have deposited into our account in interest $1,893.11, which is $1,500 more than what we were seeing before. So yes, we're going to see the fees now, but we're going to get a higher interest rate. We're going to gain more interest on that account. I don't have to move the money around. The rate does fluctuate with the federal rate, but I do have it set in a contract to where we will never fall under the 0.5%, so we're still gaining double than what we are now, and we're capped at 2% for 2 years. So if that rate goes back up, we'll max out at 2% for 2 years, and then we can renegotiate the terms. The account, how it's pegged at $55,000, so we are paying 12 cents per every $100 that's sitting in that account pegged. I have talked to Financial Solutions. I had them look this all over because to make sure it wasn't too good to be true, that there was no hidden fees, that I wasn't missing anything. So the bank and Financial Solutions suggested that I peg that down to 0. So we will not be paying the fees on the $55,000 anymore, and that sweep account will just keep fluctuating that money back and forth. They will never look at an overdraft fee or anything like that. I know it sounds weird that we're saying that we're pegging the account at 0, but that $1.7 million account is constantly flushing the money back and forth. That's what it's always done. That's what it's been there for. So we are now going to gain interest on that $55,000 when we weren't in the original account. So from meeting with Casey and Zach, apparently they've been trying to get the town to do this for the past 3 clerks, and they've all refused to because of seeing the fees. You're a business, you got to spend money to make money. We're gaining $1,500 more a month in interest. The money's still there.
I never heard him say that one time. So.
I don't know if they met with you or somebody else that was working in the office, and I don't know how long ago it was. So, like I said, the money still stays in the bank. We're earning more interest off of it. So that looking at the rate right now, it's an extra $24,000 in interest a year for the town. So that is what I have done. I don't have to worry about paying penalties on it if we need to withdraw it, and I just gained us an extra $1,500 a month.
Are we entered into did I hear you right, a 2-year contract?
For that, it will never go any lower, because like if the interest crashes, they set us at we cannot go under 0.5% for 2 years, which is double what we
But
were.
we're maxed out at 2% on the other side.
Yes, and that is what Financial Solutions advised me to do as well. So yeah, they've talked to the bank, they've had them send a fee statement to make sure that there was no hidden costs, to see exactly what we would be getting charged. I asked them if what would cause this 290 to go higher, and they said it's all about the flow of how many checks are coming and going. So nothing really changes. I mean, the same people pay checks or pay their bills with checks every month, sending out regular bills, so you're really not going to see that fluctuate much at all. So I figured it was the smarter thing to do, CD rates are gonna get us nothing. I don't have to worry about going to separate banks and chasing the money around, and I was also told it's a bigger headache if you have the money tied up and it's not back in your account by the end of the year for end of year reports, so. Now we have
Sounds good.
more money to look forward to.
And will that go into the general fund?
Yes.
Cool.
Good deal.
All right, good job.
Thanks. Do you have any comments on that?
No.
Okay.
Or is that it for the clerk?
Huh?
Is that it for the clerk?
Oh, no, I'm still going.
You need a lot more.
So Halloween coming up, Marshall Taylor and I have talked, and utility clerk Tammy, we have talked about how, you know, Scott goes out and patrols, or who's ever on duty that night, and because they've handed out candy or stuff like that, he has kids running up to him, and it's a safety concern. So we have agreed, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're not gonna now hand out stuff this year, you're just gonna strictly patrol, and utility clerk Tammy and I are bringing back trick-or-treating at the gazebo. So we're calling it, spectacular trick-or-treating at the gazebo. So we're gonna do that, and hand out candy. Yes, I know it was other people's idea, but somebody took it away last year, so we're bringing it back. So that will be happening at the gazebo. Fall dumpsters, I have them set to come on a Friday now, instead of during the week, because we had a lot of people complaining that, you know, being at work and it's full before they're able to get off work and get there. So I have it set to deliver on a Friday so that it's there on the weekends. It's gonna be the Friday after election, so that first Friday. So I've already posted it on our Facebook page, and I'll get that on our website as well. So there'll be the 2 large dumpsters before, once they're filled. That's that. And then the last thing for me, so I talked to Tyrone about this, and again, Marshall Taylor and I, as you know, Christmas season is coming up, and me growing up, ever since I was a little kid, one of the things I always looked forward to was at church, the gift giving tree, to help families in needs, and the police departments, as people know, do the shop with the cop. So I figure now that I'm in a position, my husband's work does it, it's something that I've always looked forward to helping families in need. Now that I'm in the position to be able to create my own, we are now going to have a gift giving tree here at Town Hall. So Scott and I are working together to get that set up. We'll have families that would like to be a part of that. They can either contact the police department or the clerk's office. It will be completely confidential outside of us. We won't say who they are, so they don't have to worry about it. We'll have tags on the tree that will say the child's gender, their age, their clothing size, their shoe size, and some of their interests, so that people will hopefully come up, grab tags, and help, you know, buy a couple gifts for them. I feel like we need to do more good in this town, and it's just something that I've always looked forward to as a child, and now as an adult. So the police department and I and the utility office, we're gonna hopefully make this happen, and it's gonna be limited strictly to children in the town of Dayton. So we wanna give back and help families that are here in the town.
Good idea.
So my goal is to have all of the names and have it all set up before Thanksgiving, because everybody likes to Friday shop and get bargains, so that's our goal. So we will get stuff posted and hopefully work with the school. People can nominate or give names if they don't want to say who they are. So that's it.
Good deal.
Good. Anything else? All right. Town attorney.
So first, on the salary ordinance, so you guys made a change regarding health insurance. I listened to that meeting that I didn't attend. I didn't bill you for that whole hour. But my question is, if you guys have any professionals other than, you know, clerk or town attorney advise you when you got that set up? Because we're making a change to, you know, amend the salary ordinance so that verification is no longer required. I mean, that's my only, question is, how did this come about? Like, did we have someone like, our insurance agent who handles other things advise, or, is there anything that, anyone else other than me and Michelle that we could just, call as a check to say, hey, I want to make sure, we're making this change, it's okay.
Well, you got my email from State Board of Accounts.
Right.
They clarified.
But, yeah, the State Board of Accounts, all they said is all that we look for is compliance with your ordinance. So, if you've changed the ordinance, we just look to see that you actually follow through with that. So that, that kind of falls on me and Michelle to say, is what we're doing valid. And I'm just saying, it's limited in what I can do. I mean, I don't see any issues with it. But we are just making that change from where, there must have been a reason before that we had it set up that way, and that's my only thing is that, if there is anyone, then I think, I'd recommend that if you are comfortable with it, you guys know a lot more about it than I just wanted to raise that to you.
I don't remember everything Tammy talked about, but she made several points about that. Tammy Nice.
You don't remember anyone outside of the board?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right.
Who's the lawyer?
I think it was for the few employees we have, is to keep having the same. One that Mark was getting one and you were getting a different, or was it?
Well, it's not been applied with since I started. I've been the only one that's made to show verification.
Okay.
But everybody's been paid the same amount. It's just you've been proving
Correct.
how, yes,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah. And I just, that language, that verification language is just in the salary ordinance. It doesn't come from anywhere else. It's not like, because we don't have health insurance, it's just providing money. That was my only question is, when we set this all up, we decided to provide, because I'm assuming we looked at providing actual health insurance benefits versus providing this reimbursement plan, and, that was my only question. Was there anyone else that kind of advised regarding, hey, do this or do that? If not,
No.
Yeah, I don't think
No.
anyone else did. I know that one time we had talked about having Marshall Taylor possibly talk to the Lafayette Police Department to see if we could hop onto their insurance because they have more officers, but I don't think that was gonna work out. It's, because right now we only have 3 people and 3 people business health insurance, and the town wouldn't be able to afford it.
all right, TIF district. So TIF district, kind of overview, is to create jobs, to generate new property taxes, and to improve infrastructure within the TIF district. So we've engaged Baker Tilly and Ice Miller, who have worked with other towns, to try to implement a TIF district, and so we are at the point where I'm working with Heather, and we just kind of need to detail out how we're going to do those things in the town of Dayton in this district. So what sort of projects we'd like to add to the TIF area, and how those projects will create jobs and generate new property taxes. So we have a list to go through. We don't have to decide this tonight, but really this was what will get put into the documents. So the redevelopment commission will need to approve this plan, and also the Dayton Town Council. So it's really all of those people are involved at this point forward. So some of the things that we can go ahead and do are things that we know about, like 2019, things that are in works, like, so we have the trucking company operations, and then we have, the plans for Yost Drive, and then we have TDF's automation. So that's why I was getting information on those, and we'd want to include all of those things. So really what I need is to know if we need to take any of these off, like if we just know that we're not doing any of those, or if there's anything that we want to add.
I mean, the first thing that I see on here, which would be, I think is a good idea in the future, but I don't think anybody in the town should talk about it, is the construct or repair a water tower. But since we don't actually own a water tower in Dayton, it's Lafayette's, we don't really have to construct or repair it. So, I don't know if that should be on there.
We need to or don't?
Oh, we don't need to, because it's not, Lafayette has to maintain their own water tower at this point.
It used to be, years ago, that on our ground, south of the tracks, down along the tracks, there's an area designated for the future water tower of Dayton. But then somewhere, it's when Hawkins and then Smith, they deemed that they never needed it, I think, because it maybe, I don't know, they increased size of Lafayette's or whatever. That's where the plan was, a few blocks west of Dayton Road, right south of the tracks.
That's the one you wanted looking like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, and I suggested that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to go through the list so everyone can hear it. If you want to provide any comments, go ahead. So site preparation, excavation, and drainage. Construct or reconstruct and extend sewer lines and or sewer treatment facilities. Sewer treatment facilities come out?
Well, I mean, our waste station, because we send all of our, that all goes to Lafayette, which is
Yeah, we
across the
don't
street
have
on
any
65, it's not in the TIF district, the final exit point.
We briefly checked into, what, 3 years ago, and cost-wise, it wasn't right for us. As cheap as we can send our sewage to Lafayette, it was cheaper to do that than it was to build a.
Sometime we need to talk to Steve Brock, though. Last time I talked to him was earlier this year. He said that at some time we might want to do that because of our costs, but I don't.
Did on the brief presentation they gave, was that 3 years ago?
Yeah.
You had it in here?
$500 million project.
Yeah. But this is just lately, so we might want to ask him.
And just to clarify, the language that will be in front of this whole list is things that would potentially be added to improve the area for the TIF district. So we're not,
Leave that in there then.
yeah. So I'll just go through them all, just so that you know what's in there, and then let me know if we need to add anything, and then after this, you guys can tell me if you really need to take anything out. So, construct or reconstruct and extend water lines, construct or reconstruct water treatment systems, construct or reconstruct stormwater drainage systems, construct or reconstruct buffer zones or mounding, construct or reconstruct beneficial environment projects, purchase or lease fire equipment which will serve the area, parking and lighting for parking and lighting for parking areas, equipment that promotes economic development, construct or reconstruct facilities to house electronics and the installation of fiber optic cable, construct or reconstruct roads, soil reclamation, construct or reconstruct railways, alternative energy infrastructure, construction, reconstruction, and or extension of any and all other utility infrastructure. So anything jumping out that's not on that list that needs to be added?
I don't think we need to worry about bridges, do we?
Yeah, or the railways, right? But I think that we need to add.
Well, wouldn't be bridges, but if you have stormwater drainage out there, you're gonna have some culverts and stuff like that, maybe under roadways, but I don't think you call those bridges.
All right.
We need sometime to have a meeting to talk about that whole area. And Sally told me that she's got that 1998 list of parks and whatever, retail, residential, commercial. storage facilities, whatever, and we've never really talked lately about what we really want up there, so. And I know we got the redevelopment commission, but we all need to start having input and really have some meetings on that. Is that-
You're referring to the land use map,
Yeah.
and, we authorize them or ask them to update that for us, and I know they started on it, and I think they had a change in staffing in their office.
Well, I talked to her 3 months ago, and she said, Ron, you guys keep asking that. She said, you got the perfect map there that we did that's good for now. That's what she said to me.
Oh.
So,
I know on that comprehensive plan that that it's wrong because of when McAllister came in, they have some of that in residential, McAllister is, so it messed up a couple of the zoning.
Yeah.
So they
Well,
were
yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
edit some of that areas, but I don't know what's happened.
well, they took over part of the residence, so you block that out, but she's saying the rest of it is.
Well, she's the one that said it needed to be updated.
I don't know, that's not.
So we told her to
According to her.
update it.
The color, what is it, the comprehensive plan right there? What is zone now?
No, that's not it.
Yeah,
No, there's
I think it goes into a little bit more depth than that.
yeah.
So to your point, we'll also need a map and parcel list of that area. So you can kind of start that.
I can start.
So, since we have some people who might be breaking ground in 2019, the goal is to get this declaratory resolution passed in November or December.
Is that the pole barn you're talking about, or somebody else?
Yeah, I was just talking about TDS automation.
Yeah.
So, we just need to get this information to Heather so that she can do the declaratory resolution. And the other thing that I'm working on is working with TSC. So usually the school board meets annually and decides who on the school board will do things like this. And I told them that we're going to try to get this done in November, December. So they said they just need to know more about the time and frequency of the meetings, because that will depend on who's available. So we know it'll be, a monthly meeting, but we haven't, as far as I know, had any discussions with the redevelopment commission appointees of when that day and time will be. But if we can get the school board person on board, then I think we should be able to get this done either in November or December. That's what we're working towards.
I should have that information back to you in the next day or two.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and then this is what I've mostly been communicating directly with Jason on at Baker Tilly. I had mentioned to him that we need to touch base or see if there's anything on annexation. He has, I don't remember the name, but he has another person in his office that works on annexation. I haven't been able to communicate directly with him lately, but that's on my list to do as well. So that's really the full update on 5th District and annexation.
with the annexation, they can't really start on until after January 1st, because this year being the census year.
Right. Yeah, I know that it can't be effective until January 1st. I think
Maybe that's right.
they might have said that you can go ahead and do the filings beforehand, but yeah, we can't do anything in 2019. It'll be effective in 2019.
We just need to make sure we're still
Yeah.
on the radar.
But we're still gonna have that financial guy, he's been here twice and saying he didn't think we can afford that road. So I thought we're gonna have him look in and be sure he does a plan that we can afford all this. You're talking about Tiffany annexing an area, that's fine, I like Tiffany and annexation's okay. But you also you're talking about what's driving it, is Yost Drive going up there, and our financial guy so far said twice, he didn't think we had the money, and I thought he was going to specifically look into that. We have the money for the engineering part, but the $1 million that we need to come up with, and either borrow or whatever, he was going to give us an outlook on that. So,
We're talking about the 5-year outlook.
yeah.
That's kind of at a stall at the moment because of McAllister's. But we're not gonna open that can of worms until we have definition, but
What's McAllister's?
I don't think the guy generally said that we couldn't afford Ford the road, I think he said, worse effect that we probably bond for at least part, if not all of the road.
Well, we can ask him, but we're not going forward with that yet, or?
We can't, because we don't have the full-blown details, but there was a new law that passed, with how McAllister, reports their personal property. They report at 9.2 million, and now they're reporting at 0, so that is dragging down our assets for the town. So it's causing a lot of problems. It was supposed to be made up with excise tax that we're supposed to be getting, but it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. So we can't do a accurate plan right now, because, I mean, they are going full-blown financial solutions as to figure out what's going on. Because it's not just affecting our town, it's affecting a lot, but since we're a small town, we kind of,
But sometime you're gonna have to have him do that.
no, they're working on it now, yeah, but they can't do it until they figure out how this is gonna affect us, because
Oh.
right now it's gonna negatively affect us, or impact us, excuse me. So, we
But
can't even give you an accurate,
we just need the answers that yes, we can somehow finance all this stuff.
we're gonna need a bond, I mean, point
Yeah,
blank, and start, we just
before
don't
you
know
go.
if it's gonna be the full amount. We don't know the full
Before, you
amount.
don't wanna plan everything there without knowing what it's gonna cost the town and how they're gonna get the monies, and be sure the people want that too. I mean, so, and I'm sure we can work it out,
All right, on easements and condemnation, I have not made any progress just because I was busy last week on getting a written agreement with Greg Malacus for what we have discussed verbally. Where we are at with condemnation is we have not voted to sue the church. We have voted to retain Yasmin's firm, and I've had an initial phone call with her and with Ron Francis. So, you know, what we are doing is not suing the church for money. We are actually doing the opposite, where, you know, if this went forward, what the town would be doing would be paying the church for that easement. You know, we've made a pre-suit offer. The church is not willing, is not in agreement right now, because, you know, they have expressed a few items with the easement language, but the main thing is the width of the easement, and then whether the utilities are gonna be on one side or the other. So we really, that's kind of where things stand right now. And I haven't authorized Yasmin to actually like draft up a complaint or anything like that. The plan is to, you know, touch base with the church to see if there's any willingness for them to kind of drop, you know, that requirement. I don't expect that will be, but we're trying to move forward with the church and, you know, see if they're willing to move off of the main impediment, right, which right now is just, you know, whether the utility sites are gonna be on the church's property or if we're gonna move the water over there. So that's where things stand on that. And then, only other thing I had, this was a follow-up from last meeting, just, you know, and kind of comment for any public comments tonight, just, you know, I can't opine on any candidate activity. I only represent the town council, and I don't represent any candidates. There's just that distinction there, so, you know, if there are any questions about, you know, any political activity, that's just not something that I can advise on as a town attorney.
Can you take one of our signs and put it in your yard? No.
I don't know the date.
That's okay.
Does it matter?
They need signs in there anyways.
Yeah.
from what we hear.
That's it for me. Any questions?
So we have not sued the church,
Correct.
correct?
You guys haven't voted to at this point.
Okay.
What's that company, what's that legal firm doing then? What are they?
Yeah.
What stage are we in the arguing with them, suing them, whatever? What stage are we in this?
Yeah, so what I said would be the most efficient is for you guys me just to draft up a letter from them so that they know that they've been engaged and make one last effort to, see if the church is willing to move it all instead of trying to get the developers, engineers back involved and, because really, they're the ones that drafted the language. So instead of putting up like a detailed letter with, all of the, getting into the details of it, that's where we're at. And, before that goes out, I would get sent you guys forward.
Well, that'd be good, but it sounds to me like when we at the last meeting okayed spending a ton of money, I think 10,000 or a couple meetings ago, getting easements, working on them, we hire a new legal firm to go, the one that Lacus okayed, to go and start the condemnation or suing or whatever you want to call it. It seems to me like this is pretty much in the steps that normal people considering strong-arming, bending me, taking my land against my will, whatever. So I just, you can not call it suing, but I would call it suing. So.
Yeah, and actually what will, result is, we have now reached an agreement with the developer to pay for these attorney fees, to pay for the payment to the church, and then pay for the cost for BFMS right away. And, what really is at issue is that there's going to be an extension of utilities on the church property that's going to be all paid for by the developer, which will be, I don't know, but somewhere in the range of $400,000 to $600,000. And so the church is going to get that, and they're going to get paid for their easements, which is allowing, that to be done. And
Has the developers actually said that did they say that they're going to pay that $400,000 to $600,000?
absolutely,
Several times,
yeah.
Okay, when?
several times.
When?
I haven't,
I don't have the dates written down, but.
Well, I've never heard them out here.
If you look on WLFI, you're on the news talking about that, Ron, 3 years ago, and then the area plan people clearly pointed out and say, it says it clearly right here.
Yeah.
Well, 3 years ago, Lacus wasn't involved.
well, I agree, so I
They
talked
also
to-
said 3 years ago there'd be water on one side, sewage on the other, but, so we changed it. Well, that's good. If he's going to
Yeah,
pay for all that, that's good. I'd like to see it in writing.
I have it in writing. What I said is we don't have a signed utility service agreement yet.
Well, that's it. That's a big thing, not having that utilities agreement. You can put anything in there you guys want to, so.
Right, but I
You can
did,
give him all kind of credits, that's a big deal. We don't really have anything signed with him yet.
we have an agreement though, that I have in an email saying, exactly what language we would put into the utility service agreement.
Yeah, well, that's not a legal agreement yet, so. It's an email stating, like his email, his talking to me and stuff, same thing, but go ahead and get it down, put it in an agreement. And then we'll sign it and go from there.
Okay. Reports from council members? Ron?
Two minor things. I wish everybody luck in this election, come this election. Good luck to everybody, including both sides. I hope after the election, either side doesn't use it as a vendetta to get back at the other side. We just need to move on with this whole thing. The second thing is, I would like to sometime, because a lot of people knocked me and said stuff about this golf cart issue. I got a lot of people asking why in the hell did I vote for it, and I think we need to revisit, in talking to Marshall Taylor, and other people around, we might wanna look at it again. That we put some kind of limit on it for seat belts, like 5 or 6 years old. I've been driving around so it doesn't affect older kids. But, I don't know, I just got a lot of people coming up to me and saying something about it. So, like, what the hell are you doing? I'm one person, what the hell are you doing? These are little kids bouncing around in there, they fall off and they can kill themselves. So I went around, I've never ridden in a golf cart in my life, and so, except back in college once. So I went around on a golf cart, putting up some signs and stuff, and as we flew around some of these corners, it seems to me like if you had kids, they sure could fall out pretty easily. The little itty bitty ones, I'm not talking about teenagers and stuff, I'm not talking about your kids' age, I'm talking about small kids. And I understand that in a lot of towns, they do have no seat belts, the ones they do have an age limit on 5 to 6, so maybe sometime we can talk about that again. But I promise these people that have been, when I go out there campaigning and they say this is one of the issues, that I would bring it up again, so. It might be something for all of us to think about, that's all I got.
Ashley?
I'm good.
I don't know anything on that, so we will move on to Marshall Taylor.
Questions on September activity report provided you earlier? If not, the no new parking signs, as Mark reported, are up. I would like to thank him for getting them installed promptly and efficiently. It's been a pleasure working with Mark every time we've done something like this, streetwise new signs, new stop signs, clearing back roadways. Once you guys make a decision to approve something, he's got it done very quickly. We're not waiting around for months to get things done. I think that one vote says something about him, but also emphasizes the need to have a full-time person. We didn't have before. And, projects like this might wait 6 months before we get them done. I just say I appreciate that. I think the townspeople appreciate that too, especially when there are safety concerns that we're addressing. Both new officers have been hired. One is currently in a position to start working and has started working. The other one, we're still trying to get his computer credentials online. That's taken a little bit longer than I would like, just because he's been out of it for a year, and we're having to go back and start from scratch, and we're having some computer glitches with getting those things worked in the system. And I don't know that that's all Dayton's part, but a lot of it is our aging RMS, report management system infrastructure. I'm going to touch about that a little bit later in regards to that. But we were able to save significantly on equipping them. The costs due to the fact that particular Austin Burris was able to utilize a lot of equipment that previous officer who quit had, because they're the same size, and relatively new, so didn't have to buy him a lot of new uniforms. And Matt Devine was able to bring, already had a full set of uniforms that he had when he retired from Lafayette Police Department. So what we had to do was switch patches. So that saved us quite considerably on the cost of equipment. The other thing I wanted to bring up, the county and the state passed a new public safety income tax here recently that went into effect. A question I had for Michelle, is that going to be a line item general fund
I
deal?
think we have to create a public tax line, yes, in the budget, and that will go directly into there.
A little bit of the research I have is that it is basically very encompassing on what the local government can decide to use that for. It could be, one, it has to be for public safety, but two, it could be for equipment, it could be for salaries, however the town deems fit. Would they transfer out of that into different areas to pay for items, or? I'm trying to see a scenario if you wanted to buy a piece of equipment out of that, would you write out of that, or even more difficult if it was part of a salary?
I think you would just pay, like if you were, just like how we pay for all of your, like office supplies, and I can double check.
I guess the
But
most complicated part would be if it was decided to pay
For
for
a salary.
part of a salary.
I think it would just be like how it would be broken down, how, like right now, you're just paid out of general. I think it would be then you would maybe do like 50-50, like public, I'll double check. But I do want to address that real quick because Sean, from the fire department, he asked me about that. I didn't even know about it. Apparently it was on the news the second, and he had asked me if they were going to be entitled to that money. And I confirmed with the assessor's office, since our fire department is actually the township, they will not be entitled to the money that we get. If they want to have a piece of that money, they have to request. But I think the deadline is September 1st. So they've obviously already passed, so they will not be entitled to ask for that money for 2020, but they can for 2021. So all of this money that we get goes strictly to our police department since they're our only form. And the estimate right now, just a ballpark, was about 21,000 that we would get. And they said it all depends on
Pretty good.
the rate and everything. So, yes, so this is strictly,
And the reason I bring this up is obvious, the vultures are circling. We found food and we want to pounce upon it before it gets all ate up. Having said that, does that mean that they can request it the following year?
yes, they can put in for 2021.
So, the reason I wanted to address that with you guys is to give you kind of a synopsis of things that, and equipment and different things that's going on in the police department that we specifically, and I specifically, haven't been going after in the previous years due to financial concerns and just a general consistency of trying to run a tight ship and be a good steward of our finances. But there are a lot of, not a lot, but several things that I think all of you need to be aware of that are potential purchases for us in the future. Obviously, the police car is always a big expenditure, and I've discussed that with some of the board members, that my current plan with your approval is to put each car on a 6-year rotation, which would mean purchasing a new car every 3 years. So that's one of the largest things. Some smaller things that, I haven't specifically asked for, but I think there's a need for in the future, and I have been researching some grants, but doesn't seem to be a lot of that out there. But just a few things that are pretty big ticket items. I think we need to think about putting AEDs in the cars. Those are automatic defibrillators. You're talking a couple thousand for those. We bought one new PVT, portable breath test instrument, a year ago. We should put another one of those so they're accessible in both cars. Radios. Last time we purchased a radio, we bought a refurbished unit, but those are extremely expensive. Can be up to $5,000 a piece. That's for the portable radio to carry. I don't see a need to replace the mobile units in the cars. They're doing pretty good. And as we bought new cars, we put new radios in them, so we're doing pretty good there. Eventually, we're going to need to think about replacing our sidearms in the future. So that could be upwards of $5,000. Our computers right now, basically across the board, are about 4 to 5 years old. That's something we're going to have to think about. We're fine now, but next year after that, we're going to need to think about having to replace those. Another pretty big ticket item back in 2014 is when we bought into the report management system of the county, and we spent a lot of money on infrastructure for the fiber optic cable to run in so that we could hook into the grid that all the other agencies are using. They are currently getting quotes on replacing that whole system. And when I say they, that's countywide, West Lafayette, Purdue, and the County Sheriff's Department. So when they decide to switch over, we will be back in that process again where we decide, are we going to buy into that to stay with our connectivity, which I hope we will, or are we going to cut out? What that cost will be, I don't know. Currently, I think our yearly fee is what, $2,000, $1,500, $2,500, somewhere in that nature. But I don't know if that's going to take a lot more initially to get installed and into that system like we did back in 2014. Building maintenance, after we put the roof on, we kind of put the halls to doing any kind of improvements down there just because of concerns with our finances. So there are some things that need looked at down there, like carpet, painting, things like that. Nothing major, but our heating and cooling system is getting some age on it, and I've looked at that, and it's looking pretty bad, but it's running. So obviously no need to replace it if it's still working, but that's not saying next year it conks out and we want to put 10 grand in a heating and cooling system. So all those things are just stuff to think about. And then we've got the fiscal future of the town with this McAllister issue. We don't know exactly where that's leading us. So given all those scenarios, I would encourage you, I think we need to keep those funds here and not give it to the fire department, who has a township to draw funds from. We've got a lot more limited base here, at least our police department does. Obviously, we're the biggest cost to the town, the general fund, and I realize that, so I don't bring these things up willy-nilly or just because I think the Christmas trees open up there. And these are things that we need to think about, and I will probably request in the future, maybe not in the next month, but in the next year.
And when I talked to the assessor, they said that the town can choose to give a portion to the fire department, but it would not be smart on the town's part to do that because they could get more money by requesting. So the fire department can't just say, we want a portion of this. They have to say, we want 10,000 for this. They have to prove why they should be entitled to it. And whatever they requesting and approved, it comes straight off the top. So if there's $8 million to be divided, it comes straight off of that 8 million, and then it's divided by the percentage through each of the towns. So he did say that it is not in the town's best interest to offer them money just to let them request it themselves. Because they would be better off in the end.
Would they request it through the county or the township?
I think the township, so probably Pam Crum.
You need to talk to Alcar, see if they're requesting it from us.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get a hold of Shawnee.
Because they have a shortage over there, or just because it's available?
Just because it's available, yeah. But since you're a township, they have to request it, they're not just.
How this works is, you see this big pile of money over here and think, well, we've always wanted that, we need to go after this, so.
Yeah.
And, it's an easy sell because you're a fire department, you're a police agency, hey, this is public safety, so, it's an easy sell, but.
They also got to save your house, so it won't be nice to them.
But they would be better off to request it themselves.
I'm just joking.
But I'm just saying, yeah.
But I'd also like an AED so that I can help you if you have a heart attack next week.
That's true, and I'm getting
Railroad
that age.
Trains blocking the track.
All this pressure, I'm probably gonna drop it.
That's all I have.
Clap, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Scott.
New and old business. Adopt the 2020 budget.
I think you guys just need to go ahead and,
Oh, we should do it there.
yeah.
Make a motion, we adopt the 2020 budget.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
I mean, if they wanna go ahead and do a roll call, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do a roll call for that.
Yes.
Ashley? Ron?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next thing on the agenda is movie night. We're trying to do this November 1st. We're securing the location. Michelle's kind of been getting put in the middle on this event. Something that we started a while ago and it's finally going. So for the next movie night, we're just going to use town board people for the volunteers. Then starting in January, we can start because the last couple ones, certain groups trying to use it as a political thing. We don't want the political thing, we want just, for the families to come out. We have a group who jumped on the bandwagon acting like they kind of had a lot to do with it. So we're gonna move the movie night just to be with the town hall members, and starting in January, we will just probably start all over with a new events committee to kind of go forward with all these different events. It'll make it a lot easier.
But we agreed, right, on council members, spouses, and then employees and their spouses, so it's not just strictly
Yeah.
to council members,
Yeah.
it's council members, spouses, and
And
then
that'll
employees.
just be for this one, and then it's next in January, however that committee wants to come together and do it.
Where's this one going to be at?
Right now, we're just getting the confirmation from, from
Sean,
Sean at the, inside the fire station, just because it could be snowing by November 1st, or it could be warm, but, okay. And then the last thing would be comments from residents. So everybody remembers that tonight, it'll be so close to election, there'll be no debating, there'll be engagement from the board members who have 1 minute timed.
We had some people that come in late, so.
Go. Yeah.
Cindy Marsh, 749 Shady Lane, just really quickly, I understand the rule, but at the meeting about the easements for the church, you had the memorandum read, and Greg wanted to hire Yasmin L. Stump Law Group, PC, to file a condemnation court case. Now, in my opinion, when you file a court case to make somebody do something they don't want to do, it's a lawsuit, and it's suing the church. And you may try to twist it and make it sound like it's not, but that's exactly what it is.
Okay, go ahead.
Nancy Oswald, 762 Shady Lane. I need you guys' help on something. My house, I've also got a lot back behind me. And over the years, I guess, things have kind of changed as to how the layout is. I always thought that the trees that are against the side of my lot belong to the property owners over that way. But I have, what is her name? Akola that bought Merkel's house? Akola, okay. Anyway, I found out that the town of Dayton now owns that.
Yeah, the road going down over the hill between Merkel's old house and that corner one just sold. On her side, the trees have fallen down on the south side of that road, and it's in the town property. I think you told her and I told her that that's town property along there. And I went and looked at it, and it is laying there on town's property.
So anyway, the tree,
She wants to-
this is the second half of the tree now that has fallen on me. Over the years, my family, because I've got 3 sides of woods, we've never had anybody help or anything. I've always taken care of it. In fact, earlier this spring, my son had to take care of a tree that fell over on Dayton's side. So I can't do this anymore. I need some help for this one. And I need someone to come and clean that up, because I understand it's you all's tree, or it's the town's tree.
Yeah, I need to look at it to really get my head around what you're saying here, but.
Is it the,
What are
is
they
it the
doing
trail
now?
that goes, starts to go down, there's that house down there, and the trees right there are falling onto yours? Okay,
Right, right.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because my line is just on this side and the trees are on this side. And the tree is falling over on my back lot, down on my
Halfway down the
shed.
hill on the south side, the right side.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
I appreciate it.
Get with you, yeah.
Thanks.
If you, Nancy, if you would, after the meeting, give me a phone number,
Okay,
so I can get hold of you.
okay.
Sue Kiger, 750 Shady Lane, Dayton. My question is for you, Tyrone. An attorney has given me this information, and it is public knowledge. Did you plead guilty to felony theft?
No, I plead guilty to felony theft.
Yes.
You don't have to respond.
I have your case number.
Well, that's
So
fine,
you
there's
might
a
as well.
couple Tyrone Taylors, so you should probably re-look into that.
Okay, I have. And when you took office for the Dayton Town Council, you still did not have, you still had that felony theft on your record?
No,
Yes, you did.
no.
And as a felon,
Yeah.
you were disqualified from holding office, and you both broke the state of Indiana law and also the town council law.
This is,
No, this is.
this is out of
Yeah.
line.
No, this isn't how.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
What agenda item are you referring to on this?
I'm referring to,
Your husband is running against Tyrone in
Okay, no,
the
no,
race,
doesn't matter.
and this is
it doesn't
inappropriate.
matter. I think he's,
No engagement either, so we'll hear you out, but you're.
Well, the minute's up, so,
oh, it is?
yeah. It's been up.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will.
We just paid $2,500 for your lawsuit against the town of Dayton, so I guess you'll file another lawsuit.
No, I
That's
won't.
inappropriate, Ashley.
No, Ashley, you're wrong.
Anybody else?
Gordon Hardyback, 7701 Adams Road. Question for Reed, this is the third time I've asked you. Have you found out whether I can see or get records of what is happening with the drainage? Because that's part of the utilities, stormwater and all that stuff. And the last time you said you hadn't checked on it. The time before that, the first time I asked you, this is the third time. You haven't checked on it yet?
No, I think we both agreed last time that if that document came to the town council, it'd be a public record, and you would have access to that. That's the only, I mean, I think that fully answered the question as far as I understood it.
That's just what I don't know, because if something comes up, you know, I'm talking for everybody down there, I'm just trying to figure out what has happened, because I haven't heard any more about, all the last I heard was what they had said they were going to do wasn't a very good idea, and it got nixed. I haven't heard anything since then, so I guess that there's nothing new going on, I don't know. Nothing new?
Nothing new.
Didn't Michelle send us a report on
Yeah, it's still being nixed, so it's not,
It's what?
it's still under review,
Still
so.
a review.
Has not been approved, nothing's been approved. After they submitted that one, they said no, they submitted another one, they said no again. So it's still under review, we have to resubmit everything is right. As far as IDN goes, and Doug Wolf and Butler Feathers, so we just haven't gotten to that point.
So they're trying something different?
Well, they keep they'll give a list of 10 things saying, hey, you gotta straighten these out. So they'll resubmit that, and they'll say, well, you still got 3 or 4 left here. So they're still working through that checklist that IBM and Butler Fairman has given them. They haven't reached the point where they've answered all those concerns. Now, once they've answered those concerns, that's whenever we'll have a document showing the design and all, and of course we'll share that.
Yeah, that's what I wanna know, because
But we just don't have it yet.
we don't want water, we don't want more water down there.
We just haven't reached that point yet. When we got something, we can say, okay, this is what it's gonna look like.
Nobody said it, like I said before, nobody says anything. We're working on it, we're gonna do this, or
Have you ever contacted Michelle to ask her?
well, I was told 5 months ago that every time I call her, she charges the town and not the caller. And so I have not called the lady since, and I told you that, Mark, remember? So I will not call, it's like people calling him when it should be Tyrone. You know, I'm not gonna call, but the only person I hear from is Zach Beasley and Mr. Wolf from Idaho. It's the only people I've ever heard from, and I ain't heard from them in 6 weeks. So I don't know what's going on. I didn't know there was something going on. I didn't know they had part of it done, part of it not done.
Okay. Yep. That's a minute. But yeah, as soon as we hear something, we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good.
Well, I guess you're home. Well, we just finished all the beans. We're down to 300. We just finished beans tonight, so we're done with that. So it can, beans.
Go get Ashley my cell number.
Yeah, I got one. I got shipment. Was my dad's.
Do what?
Oh, he's talking about Shepherd Farm.
Oh.
Yeah, I just had got home. I just got in town when I come in here. I hadn't even been home, so guess we'll find out what we want to do. Huh? Yes. And Ashley can't, and that needs to be found out, and that needs to be told to Reed, and Reed needs to tell him he needs to